You'll often be asked to remove or to correct tautology or redundancy in question 5, the textual editing question of paper 1. Now, sometimes people use these concepts as though they are exactly the same thing. There is a slight difference between the two terms. However, don't stress too much about that when you're in an exam situation. If they talk about remove the redundancy and in your mind it should have been called tautology, forget it. Just you know what it means. It's basically you're going to have to do the same thing. So don't worry too much about it, but there is a slight difference between the two terms. Tautology, and in the same way redundancy, those two terms are seen as faults of style. So hence their inclusion in the textual editing question. So it's a fault of style and you need to be able to fix it, to correct it, right? Now, tautology means that you are basically saying the same thing twice. Now keep that in mind. It is the same thing that you say twice. For instance, if you say that the person is armed, you are basically saying that he is a gunman. You don't have to say he's an armed gunman because the gun already suggests that he is armed. So gunman is enough to use. If you talk about a single bachelor, why a single bachelor? By definition, a bachelor is single, right? So why say a single bachelor? Just bachelor is enough, right? Look at, if you say a depreciation in value, just say depreciate, not in value, because you're already suggesting that the value has gone down. So it's basically a needless repetition of a single concept. Same thing said twice. So it is sometimes called rhetorical repetition in the sense that these words are sometimes used, these tautologist words are sometimes used for special effect. Now, the moment something is for effect, it is said to be rhetorical. It has a certain effect on the listener. Sometimes you would want to say the other word for emphasis, for instance, for rhetorical effect, okay? It is, in a way, a form of verbosity. That means of using too many words. It is, in a way, a sense of redundancy. In other words, there are words used that are redundant and not necessary, right? But the fact is that it is the single concept that is important in terms of tautology that you need to remember. So if I say, they walked in single file, what do I mean? They walked in a single row, they walked one after the other. So if you say in a single file, one after the other, you are basically saying the same thing twice. That is tautology. See, these words are basically redundant. So that's why sometimes these two terms are confused and sometimes used interchangeably. Doesn't matter. As long as you understand what it means, that there are too many words, there are words that needn't be there. So if you were to fix the sentence, you would just write down, they walked in single file, or you can say they walked one after another. It wouldn't matter which one you took out, it would still be correct in an exam. Right, now we get to redundancy. And basically, there's a small difference here. Here we see that there's an inclusion of extra components that are not necessary. You're not basically saying the same thing. For instance, if I say Pizza Hut, I'm not exactly saying we have pizza. It's not the same thing. It's not another way of saying Pizza Hut. But there are words used that are not strictly necessary, because when you say or when you advertise that you are the Pizza Hut, you are implying that you sell pizza. If you were to sell cheeseburgers as well, then you can say we have cheeseburgers. Now that is a different concept altogether. But to say we have pizza is ridiculous, because why? You've already said that you're the Pizza Hut. Why would you say we have pizza? Strange, because it's already implied there. So look at this example. In my personal opinion, we should postpone the meeting until later. By saying you postpone the meeting, you've actually said enough. It's going to be happening later. Until later, why? These words are redundant, so you take them out. So you fixed the redundancy by taking until later out, right? As I said, they are both considered to be errors of style. It's stylistically not a good thing to write like that or to speak like that. So, for instance, if you look at the slogan for Target, it says, kills bugs dead. Now, if you kill something, you already see to it that it's dead after dealing with it, right? So it's already, so you don't need to say dead. Kills bugs is quite enough, thank you, right? So dead must go. The word dead is redundant. She committed suicide by killing herself. Now, if you commit suicide, it implies that you have killed yourself. You committed suicide, you have killed yourself. So you can't commit suicide by any other way than killing yourself. So these words are redundant. How can you change that? How can you fix it? You can either say she committed suicide, or you can say she killed herself. Because now you're saying the same thing, but in two different ways. But this is redundant, right? Totally redundant. So the idea is that, as I said, it's a fault of style. The idea is that one should be concise and steer clear of adding all these other words that, strictly speaking, are not necessary. So if you say that you have a free gift, I would hate it if somebody gave me a gift and expected me to pay for it. A gift, by definition, is free. So you're going to have to take free out. Now, you can see there quite clearly that free is redundant, and that free is already implied in gift. You are not repeating the same word, but you are adding a redundant word. A gift is quite enough. In spite of the fact that it's wordy, be concise, rather say although, right? Make it more or less wordy and more concise. In the event that, just use if, right? New innovations, new is obviously not necessary, because if something is innovative, it means it is new. Instead of saying one and the same, say the same. It's enough, rather than saying one and the same. You don't talk about a period of 4 days. 4 days is by definition a period. So you don't say a period of 4 days. It's just becoming wordy and saying things that are really redundant in terms of what you mean. You don't repeat again. You can't just say again, but I mean, you can say repeat, and that means that you are going to do something again. It's included in repeat. And the same with revert back. If you revert, you go back. It's already included in revert. If you summarize, you're already taking a longer piece and putting it briefly, summarizing it, making it shorter, putting it in briefer terms. So the idea here is to be concise and to be on the lookout for these redundant words that we tend to want to use, and then we can become wordy and clumsy. So look out for that. Let's look at a few examples here. Can we remove the redundant words? Look at 12 midnight, right? 12 noon. You can see that sometimes for rhetorical purposes, one would say 12 noon or 12 midnight, depending on what we mean. If it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, we might say 12 noon, and it would be necessary to say 12 noon. If you just say 12, there might be a bit of ambiguity. So, but if you say midnight, obviously it's going to be 12. If you're going to say noon at noon, it already means 12, and it already means that it's in the afternoon. So only for rhetorical purposes would we then say both. And we're not going to say a total of 100 deaths. What will we take out here? We will take out a total of, because it's going to leave us with 100 deaths, and that is the total, isn't it so? If I write a biography, I'm already writing about the life of someone. If I say I write her biography, I mean what I'm writing is the story of her life, right? And when you circle, you already go around. You don't need to say around. In close proximity, that is something that we often use, and it sounds quite fancy, but proximity already tells us that it's close, that in proximity, it means they are close. So you don't need to say close proximity, you can take the close away. You don't need to say each and every. Every is fine, each and every, unless, of course, you want to emphasize. And then it's rhetorical. You don't talk about the end result, you just say the result, and you don't need to say exactly the same. It's wordy, it's not necessary, it's redundant. The same is fine, not exactly the same. If something is the same as something else, it is the same. Why would it be exactly the same? Right, here is an example from an examination paper. It says, remove the tautology. Can you see that they here call it tautology? Very often they will say, remove the redundancy in lines 1 to 3. Don't get confused by that and try to think, did they use this word correctly here? You will know what to do, to take out what is not necessary. But what is important is that, remember they talk about lines 1 to 3. You're going to have to look very well to see whether if you take, let's say, two things are said, but in different ways, and one is repetitive, sometimes you can take out either this or that, and whether you take out this or that, the sentence will still make sense. But sometimes you cannot do that. So you're going to have to look at the flow of the sentence and ask yourself, what can I take out that is redundant, that is sort of repetitive, but if I take it out, it's not going to change the flow of the sentence. That is sometimes somewhat tricky, but just use your brain, you'll see, you'll get it right. So, look at this now. American researchers have just published what they're calling the most all-inclusive, comprehensive empirical account of the experience of boredom ever conducted. Can you see? It's quite a difficult sentence, if you look at it, and you might think, oh, what is redundant here? You're going to have to look very well, and you're going to have to look at the meanings of the word, right? And if you've looked well and you've analyzed, you'll see that if something is comprehensive, it is all inclusive. Those two terms are actually sort of the same thing, and it's repeated, right? Test a little bit, look at empirical. Is that perhaps that they want us to take out? Empirical just means that you go and you find evidence, right? From real life and from real cases. Accountants, there's nothing else there, although this might sound like a very strange sentence to you. So look at all-inclusive, comprehensive. So whether we take out all-inclusive, the most comprehensive empirical account, or whether we take out comprehensive, the most inclusive empirical account, it's not going to make any difference to the flow of the sentence. So you can either take out the one or you can take out the other. So indicate that in your answer. You don't need to go and rewrite this whole sentence. You're going to waste your time. Just perhaps say ellipsis, ... the most all-inclusive empirical, and then go ... or the most comprehensive ... so that they know that you have taken out all-inclusive. Or you can after that say all-inclusive and draw a line through that is the part that you've taken out, just to make clear what you have done if you can't write out the whole sentence. But I suggest that you don't in an exam, that you just make it clear what you mean, what should have been taken out. That's all. And then you'll just get the mark. It's as easy as that. But you really sometimes have to look very well to see what they mean and what should be taken out. Because in some cases, it does make a difference in the way in which the two aspects that are the same, in the way in which they are worded in terms of semantics, that eventually if you take the one out, it's not going to make sense. Please pay careful attention to that in an exam, because that would mean that you should not take that one out, but if you take the other one out and it makes no difference, then that's the one that you're going to have to take out. So it's not that hard, but just keep your wits about you in an exam.